Hello everyone, I am Deep Patel from the Department of Mechanical Engineering. Today we are going to start one important chapter of the subject Basic Mechanical Engineering, that is chapter number 2, and the name of chapter is Energy. Okay, so in today's lecture we will discuss about the energy. Then we will discuss its two types, that is first type is the renewable energy and second is non-renewable energy. In the non-renewable energy we will discuss about the fuels LPG and CNG, and after that we will discuss about the biomass, ideal energy, tidal energy and the geothermal energy. So let us start with the energy. Okay, so first of all, what is the meaning of energy? So we know that energy is the ability to do work, and we know the energy conservation law as energy neither can be created nor it can be destroyed, but we can change the energy from one form to the another form. Okay, so we know that the potential energy is stored into the water. So we can convert that potential energy of water into the kinetic energy, and then we can use that kinetic energy of the water to run the turbine, and after that we can convert that kinetic energy into the electrical energy. So finally what we are doing, we are changing the form of the energy and then we are producing the available energy or the useful energy, that is the electrical energy. Okay, so generally the sources of energy are divided into the two types. First type is the renewable energy and the second type is the non-renewable energy. So let us discuss first the renewable energy. So what is the renewable energy? The renewable energy are generally obtained from the renewable sources, and the renewable sources are not exhaustible. Okay, or we can say that they can supply continuous energy for the many years. Okay, and we know the renewable energies are the wind energy, solar energy, etc. Okay, next is the non-renewable energy. So we know what is the meaning of non-renewable energy. Non-renewable energy are generally obtained from the non-renewable sources, and the non-renewable sources are the fossil fuels. Okay, so generally we know the non-renewable sources are the conventional sources because we are using that sources for producing the electricity from many decades. We are using the thermal power plant to producing the electricity. So in the thermal power plant what happens? We are using the coal as a fuel. From burning the coal we are producing the heat, and then that heat is using to convert water into the steam. Finally, the steam is used to rotate the turbine and electricity is generated. So this is the conventional method to producing the electricity. So the coal is the conventional source of the energy and it is the non-renewable source of the energy. Okay, so we can say that the fossil fuels are the non-renewable source of the energy and that are exhaustible. Okay, so fossil fuels in which we can say that the coal, petrol, diesel or gasolines or gases are the conventional sources of energy and that are the renewable, non-renewable sources of energy. Okay, so let us discuss about some non-renewable sources. So first of all we will discuss about the solid fuels. Okay, so the solid fuel. So we can say that the solid fuel the major component is the carbon and the hydrogen, and after burning the solid fuel we can get higher amount of the heat energy, and finally we can use the heat energy into the to converting into the electrical energy. Okay, so I have already given the example of the thermal plant, power plant. So in the thermal power plant we are using the coal as a fuel, and coal is the one type of the solid fuels. Okay, so we can say the examples of the solid fuels are the wood, peat, lignite, coal, charcoal. Okay, so the first solid fuel is the wood, and wood we are using as a domestic fuel. Okay, generally wood is used for the cooking purpose. Okay, so this is not considered as a commercial fuel. However, it is still being used as a fuel for the cooking and the heating purpose. Okay, so generally for the domestic purpose we are using wood as a solid fuel. Okay, now second is the peat. So peat is the mixture of moisture and decayed vegetable matters, and it burns fully without the smoke. Generally, the peat is used as a fuel for the gas producer plant. Okay. Now the next is the coal. So coal includes all form of coal from the lignite to the anthracite. We know there are many types of coals are available: lignite, bituminous, anthracite. Okay, so it includes all form of coal from lignite to anthracite, which is used for producing the heat, and finally that heat is used for producing the energy, that is the electrical energy. Here also the major contents are the carbon and the hydrogen. Okay. Next is the charcoal. Okay, so the charcoal is prepared by the dry distillation of the wood. Okay, so we know when the wood is burned in the insufficient air, the volatile matter is reduced and leaves behind the charcoal as a residue. There is no sulfur content and it can be burned easily without the smoke. Now our next fuel is the coke. So coke is obtained by the destructive distillation of the soft coal into the closed chamber in the absence of air. Okay, so that the coal is decomposed thermally. Generally, this process of producing the coke is known as the carbonization process. Okay. Now, next we will discuss about the liquid fuels. Okay, so the liquid fuels include the natural fuels like the crude petroleum and the artificial prepared fuels like the tars and the alcohols. Okay, and generally the major components in the liquid fuels are the hydrocarbons. Okay. Now we know the liquid fuel is having a very high calorific value. So generally we are using this liquid fuel to run our automobile vehicles. Okay, so because it is having the very high calorific value. Okay, now second is the advantage of the liquid fuel is it is easy to store and it occupies less space. Okay, and so we can say that the transportation and the storage of the liquid fuel is very easy. Okay, so generally we are using it for our automobile purpose. Okay, because the storage of the liquid fuel is very easy. Now the liquid fuel is easy to control. Okay, if we open the valve or close the valve, then we can easily increase or decrease the supply of the liquid fuel. So the supply of the liquid fuel is easily controlled. Okay, now next is we can eliminate the wear and tear of the grate system in the steam power plant. We know in the thermal power plant we are using the gating system for the combustion purpose of the coal. Okay, so the wear and tear of the gate is we can reduce it. Okay, next the combustion losses are low in the case of the liquid fuel. Okay, so these are some advantages of the liquid fuel. Okay, now next we are going to discuss about the gaseous fuels. Okay, so we know the gaseous fuels which are used in our daily life, that are methane, propane, ethane, etc. Okay, the gaseous fuels are having the higher calorific value, so we can also use it to run the vehicles. Okay, so let us talk about some advantages of the gaseous fuel. Okay, so the combustion of these fuels can be controlled at the desired level. So again, as we have discussed in the liquid fuel, we can easily control the gaseous fuel also by operating the only valve mechanism. If we supply more amount of the gas, then the combustion can be rapidly increased, and if we supply less amount of the gas, we can control the combustions. Okay, next is the economy in the consumption, that is we have already discussed. Okay, the smoke and the acids are eliminated in the case of gaseous fuel, so we can protect our environment with these fuels. Okay, because we know in the when we are producing the electricity in the thermal power plant, there is a huge amount of smoke and ash product is going to the atmosphere, and it is very harmful for our atmosphere. Okay, so we can use the gases as a fuel, so we can eliminate the smoke and the ash. Okay, so finally what becomes, the system becomes neat and clean. Okay. Also the gases, as the easy transportation is possible in the case of the gases. Okay, so this is what all about the gaseous fuels. Next we will discuss about the LPG. LPG, that is the liquefied petroleum gas. Propane and butane gases are obtained from the oil and the gas well. During the refining process of the petroleum, the considerable amount of the propane and butane is produced. Propane is liquefied at 8.8 bar and the butane is liquefied at 2.1 bar pressure. Okay. The liquefied gases can be stored in the steel cylinder and these are used for the domestic and the industrial application. So in the domestic application we are using the LPG cylinders, that we all know. Okay. So the LPG can be served as a fuel in the petrol engine, in the cars, also it is used in our domestic applications. Okay. Next is the CNG. Okay. So what is the CNG? CNG is the compressed natural gas. So when the natural gas is compressed, it is called CNG. It is stored and distributed in the hard containers at a pressure of 20 to 25 megapascal. Okay. So CNG can be used to run the automobiles. We all know that we are using the CNG cars. So generally it is used in the petrol engines. Okay, and its calorific value is very high, so we can easily use this gas as a fuel. Next we are going to discuss about the advantages of the CNG. So first of all, the first advantage of the CNG is that it is cheaper than the another fossil fuels like the petrol and diesel. Okay. Second is the maintenance of the CNG kit is very easy and it is also cheaper. Also the evaporation losses which are occurs in the petrol that can be eliminated in the case of the CNG. Okay. So these all are the advantages. Also the calorific value is very high, so we can use CNG instead of petrol. So these are all the advantages of the CNG. That advantages I have described here. Okay. Also the less pollution and the more efficiency can be generated from using the CNG products. Okay, so these are some advantages of the CNG. Okay. Now, next I am going to discuss about some renewable energy. First, I am going to discuss about the biomass energy. Okay. So, in the biomass energy, biomass is the organic material which has stored sunlight in the form of the chemical energy. Biomass energy includes wood, biofuel and the biogas. Bioenergy is generated when the biomass is burned. Okay. So what are the advantages of the biomass energy? So plants ensure the continuous supply of the energy due to their high continuous growth. Okay, it is the potential energy for the rural areas. Biogas can use as a cooking purpose. Okay, so we all know that in the rural areas generally we can use biogas as a domestic fuels. Okay, and also the waste which is generated from the biogas can be used as a fertilizer. Okay, so we can use the biogas as a domestic fuel and also we can use that waste as a fertilizer in the farm. Okay, so both the way biomass can be used. Okay. Next we are going to discuss about some disadvantages of the biomass. Okay, so first of all, the biomass energy is available up to the certain areas. Okay, so we can say that the availability is limited. Okay, so this is the most first disadvantage of the biomass energy. Okay. Next, we are going to discuss about the ideal energy. Now, what is the ideal energy? We know the potential energy is stored into the water. We can use this potential energy and then convert that potential energy into the kinetic energy by falling it from the height. And finally, that kinetic energy is converted into the mechanical energy by rotating the turbine. And finally, that mechanical energy is converted into the electrical energy. Okay, so we can use the energy which is stored in the water to produce the electricity, that is known as the ideal energy. Okay, so let us start the ideal energy. So we can say that the energy in the form of the flowing water can be used to produce the electricity. Okay, so the hydropower can be generated by using the water collected and stored at the higher elevation, and then we can use that water to rotate the turbine, and finally we can generate the electricity. Okay. So the minimum height which is required, that is the 10 meter, okay, to rotate the turbine, and the capacity of the power generation in the India is 27,010 megawatt. Okay, this is the hydropower capacity of India. Next, we are going to discuss about the advantages of the ideal energy. So the first advantage is the longer life. So if you make one time the dam, then the energy can be generated for the many years. Okay, and the minimum operating staff is required. Also, it is the renewable energy and the non-polluting energy. So we can also protect our environment with the use of this ideal energy. Okay, but there are some disadvantages also. So first disadvantage is that to make the hydropower plant, the large capital investment is required. Okay, so that is the first disadvantage. Also, the larger area is required. So that are two disadvantages of the ideal power. Okay. Next, we are going to discuss about the tidal energy. So the tidal energy is the energy which is in the tide. Okay, so we know during the full moon, there is a high tide is generated in the ocean. So we can use the energy which is stored in the high tides, and we can convert that energy into the useful form of energy, that is the electrical energy. Okay. So as the water is flow in the form of the tide from the higher level to the lower level, it can be used to generate the electricity. The tidal energy can be harnessed by the constructing the tidal barrage. So we have to make the barrages in which the water will be kept during the high tide, and we can rotate the turbine. Okay. So we can say that during the high tides, the sea water flows through the reservoir of the barrage and turns the turbine, which in turns producing the electricity. Now during the low tides, what happens? So during the low tides, when the sea level is falls below, the water which is stored in the barrage flow out in the sea, and finally also it will be rotate the turbine, so we can get the electricity from it. Okay, so this is how we can use the tidal energy. So the first advantage is that it is the renewable energy, it is freely available. Okay, and also the power generation is cheaper compared to the other energy. In the ideal energy, we have discussed there is large amount of the investment is required to make the hydropower plant, but here the capital investment required, that is less compared to the ideal energy. Okay, and it is also available from the nature, it is freely available energy. Okay. So next, the disadvantages. So disadvantages, that is the availability is for the limited period. Okay, so during the high tides and during the low tides we can generate the electricity. Okay, so the availability of the time is limited in the case of the tidal energy. Okay, also the power generation capacity is less compared to the hydropower plant. Okay. Next, we are going to discuss about the geothermal energy. So we can say that the geothermal energy is the energy which is stored in the core of earth. Okay, and it is at about 60,000 degrees Celsius. Okay, so sometimes this energy is breaks through the earth and produce the volcanoes. Okay, and then the heat which is stored into that volcanoes can be used to producing the steam, and from that steam we can produce the electricity. Okay, so from that steam we can rotate the turbine, finally turbine will rotate and will produce the electricity. So this is how we can use the energy which is generated from that volcanoes. Okay, so this is what the geothermal energy. Now next we are going to discuss about the advantages of the geothermal energy. Okay, so the first advantage is that it is the renewable energy and the inexhaustible energy. Second, the energy is very cheap. Okay, and third important advantage is that it is good for the hilly areas where we cannot generate the thermal power plant. Okay, so where the availability of the thermal power plant is less, there we can use this type of the geothermal energy. Okay, next we are going to discuss about the disadvantages of the geothermal energy. So the first disadvantage is that these hot springs are generally away from the areas having the potential of the industrial development. Okay, so if the volcanoes is generated in the hilly areas, then that is difficult to transfer all the industrial equipments to that area. Okay, so this is the first disadvantage. Also, there is a loss of the energy to carry from the one area to the another area. So this is also one type of the disadvantage of the geothermal energy. Okay, so this is what all about the four energies. So in this lecture we have discussed about what is the meaning of energy, then we have discussed the non-renewable energy and the renewable energy, and in the non-renewable energy we have discussed about the fossil fuels. We have discussed solid fuel, liquid fuel and the gaseous fuel, LPG and CNG. Then we have discussed about the ideal energy, tidal energy, geothermal energy and the biomass energy. Okay, so this is the end of lecture. Thank you for watching my video.